We're at the floor of the bathroom. There's about 14 inches in each direction. There's as important. And the area between is about 14 inches.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just for your information, the Board of Finance does have a regular meeting at 5:30, which should be very brief. But we'll start the Board of Finance regular meeting and call that meeting to order. And then when we're done with this meeting, we will start the continuation of the budget hearing. All members are present. We have a motion for consideration of the minutes of the regular meeting of January 29th, 2018.
Move to approve.
Second by Mr. Conley. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. I did receive one correspondence dated February 19th, 2018 from Laura Fucci, 418 Anderson Avenue. I'll pass that to Kathy. It's basically expressing her support for the SRO school position. Okay, new business. I have a motion for consideration of budget memo transfer number 7.
Move to approve budget memo transfer number 7.
Motion made by Mr. Cassignoli. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Secondi. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item B. Is there a motion for consideration of budget memo transfer number 8?
Move to approve budget memo transfer number 8.
Motion made by Mr. Cassignoli. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Gandhi. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Move to adjourn.
Peter, nothing? All right, motion to adjourn?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Fitzpatrick. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned of the regular meeting. Okay, we will reconvene the Board of Finance budget hearings for the 2018-2019 budget. Today is February 26, 2018. And the first item on the agenda is item 4816, Milford Flotilla.
Page 9.
Thank you. And page 90. If you'd like to come forward and certainly welcome to make a statement or presentation. We will. Open it up for questions. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Bob Jasulo. I'm the president of Flotilla 73 Inc. And to my left is the vice president, showing our vice president of 73 Inc.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. We prepared a booklet for you. This has to do with the work that Flotilla 24-3 services in the Milford area and also obviously for the Coast Guard. It tells kind of a little bit of history about us, but more importantly, all the things that we do. We started to notice that maybe there's a lot of people that just understand what does the auxiliary do. So this is, I don't know if I have enough of these. These are for you, and that's for you. Oh. Right there. Flotilla 73 is the corporate arm of what we do here in Milford, because the Coast Guard Auxiliary 24-3 cannot raise funds. That's part of regulations, okay, with the Coast Guard. And we were encouraged to have a private corporation do the fundraising. That's why we're kind of separate. Sean and I also serve double duty. I am the flotilla commander of 24-3. Sean is our vice commissioner of Flight 43. Our charter, everything we do, and every funds that we raise for Flotilla 73 Inc. is totally transferred to 24-3 for their needs and to complete their missions. A little bit of history. The flotilla is some 65 years old. It was started by people who saw the need in supporting the Coast Guard, it being a very, very small organization. And the Coast Guard depends an awful lot on volunteers, all right, because of their small force. There are about 44,000 men and women in the Coast Guard. There are about 32,000 men and women in the Coast Guard Auxiliary. We do what they do other than law enforcement, period. We can do no law enforcement. After 9/11, the mission of the Coast Guard Auxiliary changed. It was documented as such. And it became part of Homeland Security. We are volunteer employees of Homeland Security, carry that ID with us. And then the Coast Guard mission also changed. Funding for the Coast Guard was relatively modest. So when their stock went down, our stock went up, basically. So they turned to us to do the things that we considered non-hazardous, non-critical, and non-law enforcement. We do a ton of administration. We do a ton, okay, of services with the communities for boat safety. And in the booklet, I think on page 2, we start highlighting all the missions, okay, that we do. And I'll run down them real quickly. Last year we did over 1,000 marine patrols. That's out on the water. Number of missions, okay, during those patrols that are Coast Guard related were 56. Direct operational support to the Coast Guard was 190 hours. Marine safety, this is all the work we do with the maritime communities here in the area. We teach boat safety class. It is the only thing they can raise revenue on. It's through a boat safety class. All right, and it's $60, okay, per head. In the state of Connecticut, we are probably the largest provider of that service. We work with the state obviously closely. We are all certified with the state as well as certified instructors with the Coast Guard. We also offer classes to fire departments. We did the same thing here this year at the Milford Fire Department and the Bridgeport Fire Department, because as their members come into the organization, they need to have a boat safety certificate to participate in anything on the water. We do a lot of navigation work on the navigation classes, as well as going out and making sure that the markers and the buoys are on location, because they do move. We report that into the Coast Guard. Coast Guard then takes action in which to fix those. We also developed something with the school system. In this, we don't charge for this. We were approached by the school system that a lot of the students do not understand the need for math and how math can become practical. They said, "Can you come up with a class that shows that?" Well, navigation is about 50% mathematics. So we put up a program just for the Milford school system. Again, we don't charge for that. I think the session is how many days?
He does, I think, 3 sessions with them.
3 sessions with them, and the students really love it because it's something they can, you know, put their hands around, and get the math, and find out about their own community. We did in the Milford area. We had something like something like 300 students went through that program. And we do that every year as they come. Okay, we still continue to offer that. We do a lot of marine dealer visits. All the maritime community get visited by the Coast Guard. We do that effort. We deliver all kinds of safety information. We talk to them about some of the rules that have changed. And we also provide them literature for new boaters as they come in. They have a package, okay, that's from the Coast Guard. And I'm just highlighting a few of those. Pardon?
In the vessel exams. Vessel exams.
And vessel exams. We encourage people to have a vessel exam. We do that at no charge. We'll come to your vessel. We'll go through the vessel, make sure you have all the required safety equipment, actually write up a report, and we'll actually attach a sticker to your vessel that it meets all the requirements. So there's a whole ton of work, and all in all, we contribute over 17,000 hours with 70 members of that component. And the relationship we've had with the city of Milford has been really an important one. That building wouldn't exist if it wasn't what the city of Milford said about 60 years ago, offered it up and said, if you build a building, we'll give you the land. Okay, and that's what, and that location, it turned out to be a very, very critical location for us. And is to also Station New Haven, the Coast Guard.
Excellent, thank you for your presentation, very informative. Any members have questions? Joe.
Yeah, I see that you do search and rescue missions.
We do SAR cases, just like Coast Guard's called out on a SAR case. We need more than 2 vessels out there. We'll work with the fire departments, the multi-agency kind of call out. Fire departments, Coast Guard Auxiliary, we obviously have our own vessel. And when we're called out, we do that.
With your rescue Milford Harbor, this was demasted, our boat was gone.
Yeah.
Who pays for all your like operational, like gas?
On the operative safety for the boat, we are reimbursed for the fuel. Fuel is provided to us through the sector. We don't pay for fuel. And when the boat goes out, and the only time the boat goes out, goes out under official Coast Guard orders, or it does not go out.
Okay.
It has no recreation source whatsoever. Even our insurance is written that way. So and we're reimbursed for that, and how many patrol hours we put in a year. The Coast Guard has a formula that they use, like $25 an hour for every hour that was put in.
How much of your budget does this 9,000 represent?
About 19%.
Does Bridgeport contribute?
Pardon?
Bridgeport contribute? Does Bridgeport give any money?
No.
But you train their fire department?
We do charge them.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, we charge them.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. No. Because they have funding from wherever they get their funding from to get that education done, and then they come to us to deliver it. All right. So we know where their funding comes from, and so we will charge appropriately.
Thank you. Any further questions?
No.
Very good, thank you.
For the time.
Thanks for the work.
Consideration. Appreciate it.
The next item I have is public library, 4193,
35.
35.
Got a jacket there. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Chris Angeli. I'm the director over the public library. And the budget that I've submitted this year, as in past years, is really flat. We are increasing our services greatly. We are keeping our costs low by reevaluating the way we are producing those services. Our biggest increase, or the only increase I really have to do is increase in our seasonal temp funds, our part-time staffing, and I've offset that with costs in other areas. And I really just want to give you some figures to show you why that is really necessary. You know, our building is 39,000 square feet. It's over 2 floors. We have 3 service desks. And just to provide basic services and for the safety of everybody involved, we really need to have staffing in the building. We're open 49.5 hours a week, and we get over 166,000 visits a year. And we're very busy. We have over 67 to 75 visits in an hour. We really need the staff to just maintain the services and provide those extra programs that people are really coming to expect from us. This past year, we had 230,000 items that we circulated. That's about 100 per hour. And we need staff to do that. We provided 707 programs for adults, children, and teens, with over 22,000 people attending those programs. So I'm pulling my full-time staff to do these programs, these outreach to the schools, outreach to the community organizations, and I just need some staffing to maintain the building basic services. So that's really my only increase. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you for that information. Any questions from the members of the board?
All full-time as listed?
I'm not asking for any full-time help. Currently, I have 14 full-time employees, including myself and our office assistant. The increase I'm asking for is in part-time help, which we have a number of people. We have some part-timers that work just a couple hours a month on a substitute basis, and others that work 15 hours a week on a regular basis.
Do you have a number on those people? What do you have?
On the roster, we have about 12, but again, some of those are 3-4 hours at a shot, really just as substitutes, and others, we have about 4 that work about 15 hours a week. Our full-time equivalency is about 16 or 17.
Do you have any volunteers?
We do. We have volunteers for a number of different positions. We have our friends at the library who volunteer for us. They do a lot of managing of our donations and our book sale. We also take in volunteers. We also take in volunteers who do a lot of our straightening of our shelves and shelving.
Thank you.
Putting in a new kid space?
We got a state construction grant, it's a matching grant to expand our children's department and to add 2 small meeting spaces up on our main floor. I'm very excited about that. And with the expansion, I will say with the proposed expansion of the children's space, we are not asking for additional staff for that.
Good one.
Okay.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Probate court.
26.
That's Beverly. Take your time. We're here all night. Page 26, 40133, probate court.
So for the record, Beverly Collis, probate judge. The only line item that I'm seeking an increase on is reflective of what our actual expenses were in the last fiscal year. And that is the digital photography line item. The overall budget, for the benefit of the new member of the board, the probate court budget is predominantly funded through probate fees and some nominal funding through the state of Connecticut General Fund. But state statute requires municipalities to contribute for the items that are listed in this budget. And because we are a combined court of Milford and Orange, statute prorates the contributory share on a 75-25% basis. So our actual scanning expense is $6,100, and we're requesting the Milford share, which is increased this year, as I indicated, to $4,575. We are real-time scanning all documents now. So the minute, in essence, that something is filed in the court, it's scanned into the system, and then the database recording, you have to have a backup of everything these days, and that's part of what the expense is associated with. It's not the equipment has already been purchased. There's no request for further purchases in terms of those hard equipment, but this is the actual software, et cetera, expenses related to maintaining those public records. Happy to answer any other questions that you might have.
The state supply equipment at all, like computers or anything?
They furnish all of the computers.
The computers, they do?
Yes. I believe the printers as well are owned by the state, or probate administration.
So the digital equipment for the photography, what do you use to do that?
We have scanners. Each clerk has a desktop scanner. I think last year's budget might have been the last one we purchased.
Right, 1,500.
Yeah. And that's equipment that is now paid through the municipalities.
How do they determine what do they supply and what we supply? Like,
Well, because the computers and the printing equipment has to be maintained with the software licenses by them and their confidential records on them, they have to maintain control and ownership of those items.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nice,
Thank you. Have a good evening. DPLU 4142. How are you?
Evening. I'm Joe Griffith. I'm the Director of Permitting and Land Use. We oversee the Department, or the Office of Inland Wetlands, the Planning and Zoning Office, the Building Department, as well as the Zoning Department. I guess I'm also here tonight to answer any questions you might have on the Zoning Board of Appeals. Also, we administer that budget. I won't read through all this. I'd just like to kind of hit on some of the high points. This year's budget is proposed at $1,080,000, which represents a $36,000 increase over last year's budget, of which $25,000 is attributable to salary increases. As with the 2016 budget and also last year's budget, or this current year's budget, we continue to consolidate operational expenses where we used to have for instance, photocopier accounts for the building department as well as for the zoning department, or the zoning office, as well as inland wetlands. What we've been doing in the past few years is consolidating those under DPLU. It makes for a more efficient, to say nothing of just in terms of purchase orders and maintaining equipment. It also allows us to get a better handle on just what the costs are, group them all together and able to see them under one line item. So this year we have simply completed that consolidation process. And what I point out is with the exception of the gas, postage, and advertising costs, all the operating expenses are now under the Department of Permitting and Land Use. So gas, postage, and advertising costs remain under the zoning office, the planning and zoning office, the inland wetlands office, and it's appropriate for the building department. Should note also, difference this year is that with the enactment of the ordinance for specifically planning and zoning fees and zoning board of appeals fees, while we have the same amount in our budget for advertising, that's the cost for public notices, we're now able to assess as part of the permitting fees $200 for every application. So that offsets the cost of advertising. So the advertising amount's the same. Our revenues are going to now reflect that increase in permit fees. I also made a mistake in the budget that we see in front of you. We omitted uniforms and weather gear. That's specifically for the building department. I left that $1,000 there. And then also under publications, which is specific, or for the most part, the cost of building codes. That was left at $2,000. So whereas our budget right now is, in the book that you have, the budget shown is, I believe, $1,077,000. I'm now showing it at $1,080,000 to reflect that $3,000 admission that we did. I should also note that my handout references a corrected set of pages on the back of your handout, and the wrong one got in here, so I'm sorry. It's not corrected.
Okay.
I will forward the corrected copies to Ms. Garrett. It's all right.
Well, thank you for alerting us to that. And Peter, when we get to our technical discussion, we'll have a corrected page.
For the uniforms and publication?
Yeah.
Yes, I plan to.
Thank you. I apologize for not getting the right page.
No, that's fine. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Just briefly, as our budget indicates, there is 95% of our budget is staffing. In the past year, our administrative assistant, Phyllis Leggett, she retired, and so for the past 3 quarters of this year, we've, well, Meg Green specifically has been working in the position of interim administrative assistant, and I should note that she's done just a really great job in handling both her regular responsibilities as secretary, but she's also stepped up and in staying at the planning and zoning meetings. She served as the board secretary for planning and zoning, as well as for the zoning board of appeals. Also, at the end of last year, our building inspector, Rack Gleason, passed away. So, and which was just, it was tragic only because his demeanor and his experience were just exactly what we were looking for in that office. We just miss him. And so we've been working with human resources right now, and we have a request for the resumes out on the field right now. We're also anticipating the retirement of another building inspector this year, so we're just trying to maintain our staffing. And I should note, as I indicated last year, one of our real, I guess, high altitude objectives is to lower our community rating system score, the CRS score. What that does is for every point that we go down, the residents in town who have flood insurance realize a 5% increase, 5% decrease in their premiums for every point that we lower ourselves. Part of that score is developed through a BCEGS, which is a nationally recognized scoring agency through ISO, which looks at our building department, and specifically one of the criteria they're using for scoring our building department is our staffing to number of permits that we're issuing, the number of inspections that we're doing, the number of plan reviews that we're doing. So they're looking in very quantitative terms how many inspectors we have and how many plan reviews and inspections we're turning out, based on obviously as the ratio is maintained, we get a better score. If our ratio dips too low, our score will go up for our BCEGS, which will affect our score for the community rating system. So my point is, it is important that we make sure that we are maintaining the proper levels of staffing for building inspectors in particular, because it does translate directly into our community rating system score.
How do they determine that?
The community rating system?
Yeah, how do they determine whether you have enough inspectors or not?
It's based on a national standard. I don't know how they came up with the right number, but what they're essentially saying is that they're looking for the number of permits, they're looking for the number of inspections that we're doing, and they base it on a city of this size, 56,000, and they're saying this is the ratio that we believe you should be maintaining.
Do they use the number of buildings you have, the number of homes we have, what are they, there must be some kind of criteria.
It's the number of permits that we're issuing,
yeah,
and then the number of inspections and the number of plan reviews that we do during the course of the year. And then they weight that on the size of the city.
Now, I have a plan review, if they're reviewing a Connecticut Post ball being built, and I'm doing a house, or a small apartment building.
Yep.
I mean, how do they determine whether you have enough inspectors going doing that work or not doing that work?
They rate it based, I mean, they segregate.
Square footage?
No, they segregate the commercial permits from the residential permits.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that at that point they're grading or scoring the commercial permits all on the same basis. So whether it is a convenience store going in, or whether it's a tenant in the Connecticut Post Mall going in, they're weighting it the same.
Now, they give you the results of these every year? Is this every year, or what is it?
We apply for it every 5 years. This is for the building inspectors, building inspections. So we're applying for it every 5 years, but we are making sure that I am trying to make sure that we're coordinating that submission to the BCEGS, the building department score, with our CRS score. So our CRS score is coming up this June. I want to make sure that we have our BCEGS score minimized for that. And we actually just resubmitted it last year, and we had a very good score. But if we decide to resubmit it again, and if they accept our application again, I want to make sure that we're properly staffed in our building department. So the objective is by let's say this summer, we're going to be in for a new review for our CRS rating, which again is what impacts directly the flood insurance that the homeowners are paying. And in preparation for that, I want to make sure that we have our building department score as low as possible also.
This is a national outfit, not a state outfit that does this CRS?
Correct. It's a national outfit.
Out of where?
The people that I'm dealing with are in New Jersey.
Oh, no. Okay. On your building inspector with one vacancy right now, right?
Correct.
At what rate will that person come in, the replacement? What with salary?
Building inspector A, I believe, starts anywhere between, and I'm approximating here, 65,000 and 70,000, I believe.
Why do we not list that building inspector A at, say, 65 or whatever, instead of 76,000? Because that's not a true figure we're putting there as an empty spot there.
Well, I mean, legitimately, I'd like to hire the most qualified building official that we can. So even though Rack Gleason, when he did start last year, he obviously was new to the city, but he came with him, I think it was 16 years experience from he was the town building official for Weston.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did want to hire, we want to attract highly qualified candidates. And
So
again,
you would hire somebody at the same rate you're paying somebody here in the city now?
if he warranted it, yeah. So we'd be looking for that type of experience. If somebody came to us with 3 or 4 years experience, no, I don't think we would be hiring at that rate.
Joe, I think we had this discussion,
Yeah.
I think, last week,
Yeah.
last time.
Yeah,
And, you know, Peter explained it to us.
yeah. I still don't agree with it.
Well, you
Right.
may not, but we.
Because they can always come back if they hire somebody at a higher rate,
I know that, but.
you know. I'd like a true figure on the budget, that's all. Not an estimated.
My point looking at the CRS though is that all those are considered in developing that score.
Oh, the higher the salary, we get a better CRS?
The better the experience that the inspectors have, yes, that does show up on the CRS score, or excuse me, the BCEGS score.
I got a feeling these people doing these scorings are all building inspectors.
No, they're all insurance people.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
No, those aren't Joe.
that'll take care of that, won't it? Okay.
All right, thank you. Anybody further?
No.
No, on the computer I do have it. Why are we having an increase on the computer? What's going on there? From 5,200 to 8,000.
Pardon me?
From 5,200 to 8,000 this year.
I went through each department. We have inventoried the age of each one of the computers, and again, I can't give you the breakdown by department, but essentially that translates into a certain number of computers, replacements for the desktops, but also we are carrying, I believe, an additional $300 to allow for dual monitors at certain stations. So when we're replacing the desktops at specifically the building department or the zoning enforcement officer stations, we are also looking to purchase dual monitors will allow us to bring in the electronic documents. And what we're trying to do is reduce the amount of paper that we're requiring applicants to generate. And so that's the point of the dual monitors.
Are any of the inspectors using tablets?
Yes, all of us are. All of the building inspectors. Last year, we requisitioned, I believe, $5,000 for tablets. Those have been purchased, and now we have our well, they're iPads, and those are working out terrific.
Okay,
They're allowing us, before what we had to do was transmit our field inspection reports into the cloud, have them downloaded into the office, and have them emailed out from the office. What we're now able to do on these tablets is email them directly from the field.
That's under your computer cost.
All
capital outlays, which area is
The
that?
tablets were purchased under this year's budget. So we're
Under,
not,
what account, the computer account?
no, they were a separate expenditure for tablets. Under last year's budget, under computers and laptops, line number 4977, 498, we had $5,500.
Oh, I mean, a computer laptop. You haven't spent it though.
We have now. I mean, they were just purchased in the last
Right, yeah.
3 months, 2
Yeah.
months.
Get that up to date, Peter. Get it up to date, Peter.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Any questions on zoning board of appeals?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I get it.
Zoning Board of Appeals, 4144, page 29.
Huh?
I don't mean to cut in line.
No, you were right on cue. Looks like it's primarily advertising and secretarial fees.
Yes, and the same holds true under this year and going forward. The zoning board of appeals will be assessing essentially $200 per application to offset the cost of that advertising line item.
That is in revenue area, Peter? The offset for the fees?
Which fees, Joe?
Well, I shouldn't say offset.
Yeah,
We're obviously collecting permit fees, which are now all going to,
the general fund for,
are going to
Building
increase
inspection fees
$200.
go into the general.
just general fund, not another separate account?
No.
No Fund 76 or anything like that?
There is a Fund 76 for third-party review for the mall, but that only occurs when it's applicable, and that occurred years ago.
All right.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
4123, community development.
Morning.
How are you?
Good evening, everyone. How are you?
Very good.
So the economy in Milford is doing well. I'm happy to report. We had this infographic up last year. Lacking, though, is our new numbers from January, which we had more business starts in 2017 in over a decade. So we've had a lot of growth. We keep growing. I spend my entire day on the phone with new businesses wanting to grow and improve their square footage and hire, so it's busy. I think we get a lot done with a little. I have a part-time assistant, so I did toy with looking for more hands, but the budget this year is not, I don't think, available for that, but we do a good job with
Mayor's
what we
not here,
have.
you can tell us what you want to say.
I would like to fork.
Yeah, right.
But we do a lot with what we have. I think I work with every single person in this room in some way. We have a lot of volunteer organizations I work with. John at MPI, I have my EDC group. The Chamber and I work together quite a bit. I also work regionally. I'm on the board of directors of our Connected Economic Development Association, which also keeps me in touch with a lot of the grant programs. So we just closed out our TRD conceptual site plan and market analysis grant. That will go to RFQ to develop downtown, and just from that going out already, there's been a lot of spur of development, so we're excited about that. We also got another grant this year, close to $400,000, to redo our transient docks down at the marina, which ties into tourism, which we've taken a lot, trying to capitalize that on quite a bit more in my office this year. And I think there's going to be a lot of return on investment from that. So we're excited about that project. My budget is the same. I think I was docked $100, which will hurt. And that's it. Any questions?
Okay. So
economic development under your?
20 for
Page
community
20.
development, yes.
Yeah.
So we were community development, page 20, 4123.
Are you involved in bringing all the cars into town?
Bring all the cars?
Yeah. All the Jeep has all the space next to
Oh,
Costco.
yeah.
We're starting to look like Framingham,
yeah.
Mass, or Norwood, Mass, or Foxborough, Mass, or
Yeah.
100,000
Well, it's
cars.
interesting you say that because, you know, private land disposition, sometimes I don't know about it until it happens.
Done. Mhm.
And we talked about some of the storage units going up and, you know, what can we do? Is there a moratorium? But then we look back at it and look at the research and we say, well, if that's what the land is being used for right now and it's bringing taxes into the city, who are we to say we're going to put a moratorium on this study, which some towns have?
But why don't we get more taxes off that land because it's being used for different use?
Well, we
What
will.
it's, huh?
We will, if it's being, most of them are being underutilized at this point. Like, some of the places, they're just derelict places that were
Right,
not
do we
used
get,
at all.
we don't know that, do we? In other words, you get it, where the motel was next to the Costco, that was ripped down, now it's an empty lot.
Mm.
That is at probably the lowest tax rate you could possibly get on a piece of commercial land, right? You know?
Well, it depends on, we don't look at it just as what's being saved, we look at the indirect and direct costs as well. So it's not just, when people come to Milford, a lot of times, they'll come and look for cars, but they're eating at the restaurants, and they're eating at.
No, I
going to
understand all
malls.
that.
And so
I
you're
understand
taking
all
that
that.
into account as well?
No, taxes, are we getting additional taxes off of vacant land? when
Well, it's not
used?
necessarily vacant, it's being
Huh?
used as vehicle storage lots.
Right.
No,
So,
when it's empty, it's empty, we're getting zero tax and
Let me make an
Zero
analysis,
rate.
and I think this is where
What?
you're going with this, but I'm not really sure.
They still get taxed on the value of the land.
Yeah,
On the coast road.
sure.
sure.
Quite a bit.
we put a building up on that land, what do you get?
Well, you get more taxes.
Like, we put cars on this land, what do we get?
Property taxes.
You probably get taxes.
No, not for,
Well, you'll
not
get,
for dealers' cars, you don't get property
you
tax.
get tax on the land that they're using. I mean, you get,
Right, zero tax.
there's nothing there, you get nothing, and then
Right.
there's something there, and you get something.
That's what I'm asking.
Right.
Are we getting additional taxes for this land?
If it was not being used, and now it is
If
being
it's
used,
now
then
being
yes.
used for an additional
Yeah.
purpose?
Sure.
How do we know? Do you know?
Well, it depends on the square footage of the land, it depends on how much they're using, it depends on the transfer.
Do you know if we're getting this?
Well, every
Well, if
situation's
you
gonna
give
be a
me
little
an
different.
actual.
I'm just
I
talking
can-
about land that they're taking over. We probably have
If you wanna
about,
give me an address, I can tell you what we were making a year ago and what we're making now.
that's good.
And I can call
The
you
land
tomorrow.
right next to Costco.
Yeah, okay,
That old Milford
Yeah.
Hotel used to be there.
Yeah.
Jeep is now taking it over.
Yeah.
I think they're leasing it probably.
yeah.
And they probably have, I don't know, 1,000 cars in there now. And the land, they've ripped down the KSC building.
Yeah.
Where the KSC building is. Now, that's all cars. Well, you know what I'm getting at? We're using all this land. The KSC building, we're probably getting pretty good taxes on unless it was as a nonprofit, but I don't think so. We're getting a good tax rate on that. Now we've got a bunch of cars in there.
Right.
Are we getting the same tax rate off of that?
Well, the tax rate is the same for everybody, so we were going, you know, depends on how much they
income,
own.
I should say
We have
tax
to put it
income.
against the square footage of what they own, against our tax rate, and see what it was making before and what it's
Just see
making
what
now.
we, all you gotta do is look at the property when the KSC was there, and what are we getting now?
I will happy to do that.
Yeah.
See, might have been
Huh?
nonprofit though, too.
Well, I don't think it was. Yes, it
Peter,
was. Yes, it
Peter,
was.
I just want to mention, Julie, when she researches, may want to consider besides the tax on the land, whether or not there's personal property
Yeah.
taxes on the inventory.
On the inventory, this average is
Yeah.
flowing through there, because some cities charge
Absolutely.
on what's, you know, constantly there, what personal property is constantly there, so we may be
Yeah.
charging taxes on,
We,
no.
Yeah.
it is possible
Right.
perhaps that we're collecting on the land and also the
Yep.
personal property
Right,
that's on the land.
right.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you do that analysis,
But
and
that
you look at a
personal
very
property
small
doesn't-
lot, and
Oh,
it's a
these are
mixed-use
big.
development,
These are big.
but what I'm saying is, if you look at a very small lot, and it's a mixed-use
Mhm,
development, the taxes we are making there by far outnumber a Walmart in that huge lot, just because
Oh, I know,
of,
yeah,
right.
it's
So
fair,
that's what I'm saying, it's very, it's
percentage-wise.
an
All I'm
interesting-
interested in
yeah.
is, are we getting additional getting any remuneration for a building that we ripped down.
Okay. So you want me to look into the property next to Costco to see the difference between taxes last year to this year?
Mhm.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
Sure. I can say that we're doing, with all this development going on, we're doing really well, so.
I'd rather see
And then
development rather than
yeah.
cars.
And you look at the data, we have these great data sites now, which is awesome, and we can kind of compare ourselves to the surrounding towns, and we've been outpacing surrounding towns for a very long time. It's also good to think regionally, we want to work with our partners around us and work with our partners in New Haven, so we try to open those relationships a little bit more.
Right. I just don't want to end up as Massachusetts, that's all.
That's for sure.
You got it, I came from there and I know what it is. You don't want it.
All
Okay,
right, thank you, Julie.
thank you very much.
And then, just while you're here, economic development, 4155, page 31,
31.
$1 secretarial fees.
I'd like to increase that to $100,000.
At a couple zeros.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Human Resources Department, 4219.
That's why I want to look.
Good evening.
Yeah. 41.
Welcome.
Overall, we have a small department, as myself and two staff members, an HR generalist and a benefits specialist. And a couple of years ago, I came to this board and we changed the benefits specialist. It used to be pension administrator, it only functioned in pension, and we retitled it to benefits specialist. So now that individual not only works with pension, but also with benefits for retirees. And we've added a new benefit plan to the city, the high deductible health plan with an HSA, so that person is also administering that plan as well. So with the small staff, we do a lot of work. Last year, we even though we did have a higher increase for a period, but we worked on 13 promotions and transfers, 10 new hires, and some of the key positions were tax collector, deputy tax collector, certified tax collector, wastewater superintendent, and building inspectors, and a couple of various other positions in public works and wastewater and finance. In recruiting, we reviewed over 360 applications and over 10,000 screens on Indeed.com, so that does take a lot of time, but we did go through those.
What are those? Sorry.
There's a website called Indeed.com where people submit resumes, and so we usually have to go through and screen them, and if there are people who are qualified, we'll send direct mailings and say, please go, here's a link to our website, please download our application, complete it, and submit it so you can be truly qualified, but nonetheless, we do have to go through the site and just make sure that we're not missing anybody there.
You have to go through, or you prefer to go?
We do canvass through to ensure that if there are some good qualified candidates there that have not come through our website, that we direct them there.
How do they get on there?
Onto our website?
On that site that you...
It's just on the network, on the internet.
They just go
It's a job search site.
It's a job search.
I don't want one. Okay.
Do you do the screening for the city, but
Just
not
on
the
the
Board of
city side,
Education?
yes, just the city side. And police and fire do their own recruitment. So it's mainly positions in the building in Parsons, and library, health department, and public works. So the public works is keep us quite busy. We work very closely, I work very closely with the city attorney's office in contract negotiations. Last year we were able to settle 3 more collective bargaining agreements. We have a tentative agreement with one of the bargaining units, and our very last bargaining unit that we're trying to finalize that contract. We have all the contracts back to current. We attended 12 grievances that I managed, attended 7 mediation and MPP hearings, 2 arbitration hearings, 2 unemployment hearings, and 2 CHRO hearings. I am a member of COMPELRA, which is the the State Association for Public Employer Labor Relations Association, INSURAN. In terms of benefits, we work very closely because we do the benefits for retirees. Finance did have vacancies, and we assisted with the active employees, so we were busy with that as well in supporting them. And on the wellness front, for a wellness committee, we partnered with the Red Cross and had a blood drive. We held many lunch and learns, and we applied for a wellness award, which we were recognized for a second time. So.
Excellent.
The budget overall is flat. We did ask for a little bit of an increase in the overtime line, and that is to account for, as I mentioned at the top of my speech, I am a key member of the Munis implementation team, and we are converting our financial system, an HRS system. The HRS payroll phase is going to start this March. We'll bring it into next year, and our target implementation date is 1/1/19. And so that's going to take a lot of work. And as you can tell, we have a pretty full plate with what we do on a day-to-day basis. And some of that work is just going to have to be done on overtime. So I did want to account for that a little bit. And then the medical and dental line increased a little bit because we have a lot more employees from public works that labor positions were converted to driver laborers. So now everybody pretty much holds a CDL license, and we have to do random drug testing quarterly. And so that just to account for that, to ensure that we have enough funds to cover everybody. And
which area was that?
That was
The other medical?
Yes.
Or other medical, okay.
And that's it overall.
Okay, Peter, with medical and dental, how do I put this? They have regular health coverage that the city covers. Why is medical and dental, this coverage separated from?
What do you mean by separate?
It's not, this medical and dental is just, what is that?
Oh, that's specific to HR, to the, are those the medical exams that is part of that line item, Tanya?
For new hire physicals, I'm sorry, I misspoke. When I said what the increase that I asked for was under the medical and professional fees, but that's for the CDLs, for the commercial driver's license.
But he's
The
putting it in
medical
the
and dental
medical.
line is for pre-employment physicals, when we have to do screenings.
What does dental come from?
That's just.
It's just,
I didn't know the
could you
line.
take that out of here?
Maybe so.
I updated digital photography.
Police
so-
horses.
Before you start work, you gotta check your
The
mouth
police
out.
horses have to check
Oh,
their
the
teeth
police
to make sure that the
That's
dental
The
work.
police dogs.
Exactly.
Right.
Oh, man, we're getting abused here, sorry.
It's okay.
All right, thank you. Any further
We're all
questions?
set.
Nope.
No, but just what is a generalist? That's a nice term.
A generalist is somebody who works in HR and sort of knows different areas of the discipline in HR. They do a little bit of recruitment, they'll do a little bit of labor relations, a little bit of workers' comp, employee relations, health and benefits. So you don't specialize in one specific area, but you can, a little bit of everything.
Gotcha.
Well, while you're here, I'm not sure if your pension board, which is
Yes.
40145,
Yep.
page 30. That is primarily professional and audit fees.
Sure.
And then Civil Service Commission, page 31, 4151, that's entirely secretarial.
And that has stayed the same for the last 5 years. And the generalist is the secretary for the Civil Service Commission.
Ah.
But that's just in case she's not available and I have to bring somebody that I can take that piece.
Good show.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, take care. 87.
4801, Council on Aging. So this is your retirement now?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm not fully retired. No way, I was gonna live no.
87.
87.
87.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Janice Jackson, Executive Director of the Senior Center. And with me tonight is Phyllis Leggett, bookkeeper. You can see a copy of our February
Thanks,
budget
Phyllis.
copy of our programs and services. I'd like to give you some general information about the senior center based on the last fiscal year ending June 30th, 2017. We have 42 employees, 5 are full-time, 87 are part-time. Last year, our Meals on Wheels drivers delivered 10,902 meals to elderly and disabled clients in Milford. We have a total of 12 vehicles and 9 drivers, 2 are full-time and 7 are part-time. Our transportation service provided 22,674 rides for older adults. Last year, we served 30,134 meals in our mini lunch program. Our continental breakfast program served 7,384 seniors. Our insurance specialists served 2,339 clients. Social services served 6,909 clients with requests such as home care assistance, housing referrals, entitlement programs, and referrals to healthcare and assisted living facilities. The Milford Food Bank assisted 2,856 clients with food. 356 people over the age of 55 joined the Milford Senior Center. 20,593 members attended our classes. 4,134 people attended special events center. 1,756 seniors attended our trips. So that is an increase of 36% over last year's figure. Thank you very much for your support. Does anyone have any questions concerning our programs or services?
Membership, how many?
Approximately 3,000.
3,000.
Approximately.
Mm-hmm.
What's the fee for membership?
$15 a year. A year, yes.
Additional grants, any?
Yes. We received a United Way of Milford grant.
How much is that?
$25,000. And we received a community development block grant. And that is $7,221.
State give us anything? State has nothing.
Recently applied for a Department of Transportation grant. And we won't know probably until next year if that is approved. And if it is approved, then they would pay 80% of the vehicle, and we would pay 20%.
Wow. This is something new?
Department of Transportation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should have been doing this years ago.
Yeah, we have.
We have? Oh.
I have applied for grants before.
And have we gotten money before?
We've gotten vehicle, yes.
Oh, we have?
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's a little bit increased, okay.
Yeah.
So 90% of the money is coming, 99% of the money is coming from Milford then, right?
Well, actually, it's 83% of our budget is the city of Milford, yes.
Oh, right, okay. Now, the funds you get from the state, that goes in the general fund, I wonder?
You're talking about the Department of Transportation?
Yeah.
We have a grant from United Way of Milford for $20.
No, the reimbursement from the state, you don't see that, that just goes right to the general fund. You got a 80% reimbursement for the vehicles?
No. The Department of Transportation, if we're approved, will pay 80% of the vehicle, and then the senior center would pay 20% of the vehicle.
What do you mean of the vehicle? The purchase of the vehicle or the
Yes,
use of
the
the
total
vehicle?
cost, yes.
Is that the federal DOT or the state DOT?
Yes, State Department of
It's
Transportation.
the State Department of Transportation.
For example, if the 14-passenger bus is $65,000,
Mm-hmm.
then the state would pay 80% of that,
Right,
and then we would pay 20% of that.
right. Now, the usage, you don't get any money from the Department of Transportation.
No, it would be a bus that we could use to
No,
transport our seniors.
The usage, what it's costing you to use that, the outlay to use that bus.
We have, right here, you can see on page 87, the gas and other propellants, $20,000 for gas.
Right, but does the state give you any reimbursement for that?
No, for gas?
Right. They give you any reimbursement for the drivers that are full-time?
No, that.
So strictly for the
salaries,
purchase
yeah.
of the vehicles that the state gets involved?
Yes, that's what we're applying for. We're applying for a grant to buy a new bus.
Right. In the previous years, you gotten the grant, right?
Yes, we have applied for grants,
I got
yes.
you. I got you.
Okay, anybody, anything further? All right, thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Do you need, I have two more, what do you call them, monitors? Should I bring them down? Yeah?
Thank you, Joe, it's a donation.
Yeah, okay, because I had two of them and,
Okay, great,
yeah, okay,
thank you.
good.
4803, thank you, Fine Arts Council.
87.
87.
Look at that.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Paige Miller, the Executive Director of the Milford Arts Council. I've handed out to you today our brochure, the calendar of events. One page explaining kind of the metrics of the ins and outs of the Arts Council. We probably serve over 12,000 people in numerous events. Some of which I have individual flyers, so you can kind of see the range of what we have. Our programming, beginning with our opening receptions, which are free to the public. We have open mic nights, which are $5 at the door. We have most of our music and theater for members is $15, and concerts go between $15 and $30. So we try very hard to keep our pricing and events not only varied enough for different people, but also affordable for most everybody. This year we received additional sponsorship from Virgin and Moses for sponsorship of the specific music program called Live at the Mac, which is 7 or 8 concerts. With that gift, we were able to bump up the caliber of our performers with no raise of ticket prices to our members and to our patrons. Our Good to Great grant program is 95% finished, on budget and relatively on time. We missed the window to do the planting in the garden areas, so that will be done this spring. The remaining $12 in that grant. Other grants that we got was a CPG grant for repointing and refacing the facade of the Firehouse Gallery in Walnut Beach and some roof repair. We've been having water infiltration, and so that building is hopefully, knock on wood, secure. We're looking for other funding and grants for doing a renovation to the outside. We are also put together a steering committee of different community leaders from the area in Walnut Beach and beyond to discuss the usage of Firehouse and renovations and uptick on that to become more impactful to the community itself in Walnut Beach. This year, or last year, you guys, I think a big gift from the city went down $500, which was an extreme. We were very, very appreciative. This year we are actually asking for more money. I think I requested $8,000. Meeting with Ben, he did kind of come back in the middle with that request. And that, again, just to kind of sound like a broken record, is based on staffing. We are all part-time. Myself, I probably work upwards of 40 hours a week, most weeks. The other 2 to 3 staff people that we have not only work their regular hours, but if we can't get volunteers, they're volunteering their time running events. Right now, our music chair, we have no music chair, we have no regular music committee, so I'm also running all the nighttime concerts. We have been shifting
a little bit with our staffing. I had a business and marketing manager who was working 20 to 25 hours a week, and he decided to go into semi-retirement and do only the business aspect of it. He really felt that the work, doing the business and the books, was a finite job that he could go home with a clear conscience. The marketing, he wasn't able to really feel that he was giving his all, and it really wasn't his forte. So I hired a part-time, we split that job in half, literally. I hired a part-time person starting right after January 1st. She agreed to come on for 90 days at a reduced pay, with the idea that if she could make enough tick on our social media coverage, with our attendance and whatnot, that she would get bounced into what Richard was being paid for the position by the hour. She has already started to do that within the 6 weeks, and but it is with more hours. So it's just a fact of we do so much. We have so many different types of events. We've tried to work out with interns with our social media, but it's really impossible because the events are so varied, and you have to hit separate target audiences, as well as you know, sometimes with the art exhibits you've got called artists that have to go out that have to be different social media outreaches than your opening receptions. Your music audience is different from your BYOD painting audience. To have an intern do all that would be utterly impossible. You have to live and breathe it. So it has to be somebody on staff. So you've got any questions, but that's kind of where we're at right now.
Is this for an additional part-time person or just to bump existing people up?
Bump her up in time and wage. We got rid of our facility manager and instead put a manager in the kind of the front of the house who is our membership and program volunteer coordinator. That was all done by volunteers, and that person who was doing it was in her 80s and everything was done pen and paper. So we felt it was more important to bring somebody on staff to do that. She's working out well, but I would say having all of us walking through the venue that's being used 4 or 5 times, sometimes 6 times a week, and cleaning up after everybody, because you can't always depend on volunteers. We do have a cleaning service that comes in twice a week, but still, we had 1 week, 2 weeks ago, where we had 4 events happen, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and 2 times on Saturday and once on Sunday. And the person who rents our space every single Monday night to teach tango came in, and it was a fiasco down in the kitchen. So I'm hoping as well, not only to bump up our marketing person and give her what she's really worth, but also have a very, very part-time person, even if it's just 2 hours a week, who's doing the walkthrough, who's making sure everything goes back, everything's labeled properly, keeping tabs on all of our equipment. We have a lot of expensive equipment now that we've invested in, and we just need to make sure that the different volunteers who are all touching everything, that it goes back properly.
Thank you.
Do you have security there?
Excuse me?
Do you have security, any type of security there?
No. If there's only one person in the office, we keep the front door locked. But other than that, there's no security.
With all the equipment, we don't...
We have cameras that face downward at the front door and across our patio, and it is on a 2-week recorder.
Okay, okay.
Paige, what would you do with the other 5,000 that you asked for?
It would simply go into staffing.
Staffing?
Yeah. I can't see, depending on ticket sales and all that sort of stuff, to secure somebody with hours and wage. So I'm really looking at a secure gift that we can count on year to year. And just to point out as well, I am not a city employee, but I do treat my job as a city employee, and I can't have the Arts Council be successful. The Arts Council can't be successful without successful economic and community development. So this year I've stepped onto the Economic Development Commission. I just was put on the Chamber Board of Directors. I sit on both DMBA and the WABABA, which is the business organization down in Walnut Beach. I also sit on the Tourism Commission and the Nonprofit Commission for the Chamber.
You're part-time? And you're part-time?
Yeah.
doing a great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Regional Mental Health, 4807. It's per capita, page 88.
That's just a,
Yep.
nothing.
4812, Transit District.
89.
Good evening.
Good. Good evening.
Something to pass the time before you go home.
80.
My name is Henry Jadek. I'm the Executive Director of the Milford Transit District. Somebody maybe a little newer, so I put together this little information package so you get any questions after I left, you'd be able to hopefully get an answer there. We operate the fixed route bus service in Milford, long haul commuter bus service from Milford to Norwalk, along with Bridgeport and Norwalk Transit, and ADA van service and a door-to-door senior service. We receive the bulk of our operating funds from the state of Connecticut, so you can see that we're in a great position in the upcoming year or so. The state transportation fund is going out of balance. That's where the majority of the funds come from to support the buses and trains that operate in the state, and the bridges and the highways and so on. The fund is not in balance within the next year. We'll be looking at a 15% cut in July and a 50% cut in 2020. That's what they project. This is across the board for all the public transit agencies in the state. The city's contribution is extremely important. It represents different years, but generally always hovers between 14 and 16% of the overall operating budget.
I'm sorry, how much?
Between 14 and 16% traditionally of the overall operating budget. It's used for all the services, except for the train station parking service, which the funds that we receive through permits and daily fees there pays for the expenses. And that money can only go for the expenses that are incurred down there. But we can also take some of our salaries. We have one person that dedicates a good portion of her time to that program. And of course, everyone gets involved to a certain extent, so we can hook off a few dollars to that fund from the other salaries. We've just recently completed a couple of projects. One of them, the lockers at the train station, bicycle lockers. They came out really good, I thought. It was an initiative by the mayor, federal transit grant, and not to speak for the senior center, but the grant that she gets for the vans is a federal grant that the state of Connecticut administers. So it's not state dollars. It's federal dollars that come from the feds. The state administers a program and decides who gets the vehicles and so on. And the senior center's been successful in getting vans. But we do have to come up with 20% of the match. I'm sure she might be saying that. We work on those grants together sometimes. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer. I did ask for an increase. I know that everybody's tight on budget. We have in the third year of a contract. The only union employees we have are the operators, vehicle operators, and then the third year of a contract. Last year of a 3-year contract, and it's a very small increase. It's 1.5%. But it's still going to amount to about $20,000. So that and our medical insurance is going up approximately 8%. They switched plans for the third time in 5 years, trying to beat that thing around, but there's no stuff didn't beat.
Thank you, Henry. Any questions?
So what were you asking for the extra 10 for?
The 10 will help pay for our increases in medicals and drivers, contractual agreement with our drivers.
So, but you're meeting those now, right?
We've had to change some services. We're looking at reductions in services. We have reduced services in the past. Because there's only two ways you can look at this thing. Either you're going to make more money or spend less money. And it's gotten to the point where we've looked at opportunities to make more money. Fares have been increased, they'll probably be increased again. It's almost mandated by the state of Connecticut now with the situation that, again, the state transportation fund is in. But that's only going to get so far. That's so we have to look at services. So rearrange some services to save some money. We'll probably have to look at, that's the only other place we're going to have to go if these cuts from the state come true and the legislature doesn't do something about balancing that fund.
The seniors center runs buses, so they're, right?
Yes, they do.
And you do too?
Yes, I do.
But theirs is just strictly for the members? Or is it for everybody? You know?
Well, that's a good question.
I didn't even think to ask.
That's a good, I should know.
Yeah, right.
It's a big question, but I mean, the services are centered around the senior center. They do big doctors trips and other trips.
Right.
You know, for that nature. We generally complement each other fairly well. I don't, if the senior center went away tomorrow, there's absolutely no way that I could do the trips that she does.
Okay.
Without a significant amount of money.
That is my question.
I'd be happy to pay the money to do them, but no,
They are saving you some.
Well, we wouldn't be able to, we probably wouldn't be able to fulfill the mandates of the Americans with Disability Act because they are doing people who would qualify for that service, and we probably wouldn't be able to do them all. We'd be out of violation of an act, which is the Civil Rights Act, so we would have a problem.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Literacy volunteers from Southern Connecticut.
92.
92.
We provide English to adults in our community. Thank you for the support last year. I greatly appreciate that in addition to our budget. I'm not asking for any increase this year. We tutored over 100 students last year. There were 106. We had 26 tutors that calculated about 5,000 volunteer hours. There's about 56 different languages just in the city of Milford. So we help to support those immigrants that come to our community and help them adapt into everyday life, learn the English language, help them integrate into their child's schools, help them with their homework, help them get jobs, citizenship, and so forth. Any questions about what our program is?
How many people do you?
So last year we tutored 106.
106?
We have several tutor training classes each year, so we advertise for tutor training. I hired someone that will perform that program, and then it's a 5-week training class. We roughly get about 10 new tutors each session. It's never nearly enough. I mean, today we're just finishing one, and my file is still this thick of students that are waiting. So it's hard to, we have some classes, so we try to have them join a class just so they have at least a place to start and they can get working on their English skills. Our focus is one-on-one, which is what makes us very different from most literacy programs in the state. Most are group-based and they don't have the philanthropic community that Milford does. So we're really lucky to have 50 tutors at any time ready to give a one-on-one class. As adults coming to the United States, I mean, a lot of, say, for example, families will come, men come, they get transferred, they've already been taught in English in their countries. The women are not. So they come here, their children go to school, their kids come home, they can't help them with their homework, they can't integrate into PTA, they can't go to parent-teacher conferences, they feel very isolated and alone. So as a one-on-one, it's more than just a tutoring experience. I tell our new tutors, it's really what you want to make of it. I mean, it could be kind of like a social gathering. You could be the only mentor they have. I mean, a lesson could not just be around basic skills English, but I mean, going to the store and looking at ingredients, figuring out how to price. I mean, just think if you were dropped in the middle of Russia. I mean, like, what would you do? Where would you go? Where would you look for help? If you had to go to the doctor, how do you read your instructions? What do you even say you're sick with? you know, if the translation even relates through what your symptoms are. I mean, those are the things that our students are faced with all the time.
Are they strictly Milford?
So 75% is Milford and 25 is, so last year we opened up a satellite office in Stratford because we found many were coming into Milford. So we're in the Stratford Library 2 mornings a week.
Is traffic giving it in?
Yes, $5,000 from block grant. And Fairfield Community Foundation, I'm waiting on that.
So that's the only 2 grants you're getting right now? Stratford and Milford?
From that area, so because it's the divide of New Haven County and Fairfield, so I have to keep things separate. So for Milford, we get money through United Way, the Rotaries, Women and Girls through Community Foundation for Greater New Haven, what else? Block Grant through Milford, DeLuca Grant, Milford Bank Foundation. We don't receive any state or federal funding, so it's all based on small grants and fundraisers. So we have a Leprechaun League coming up, it's going to be in March, in case anyone wants to get them. So we do that, and the Neon Night Run, and those are our 2 big fundraisers. We have a couple like bus trips and smaller things like that that just kind of help.
The total people, like say during the course of a year, how many do you think you tutor?
There's 106 adult students that we tutor. We also have children's programs too. So we donate about 1,200 books to kids, and so we have other funding for those programs. We have books for babies, books for birthdays programs also. We reach to 7 preschools every week.
When you tutor people, do you have to have someone who knows their language to tutor them?
No, believe it or not, I know, and that's what a lot of people come in and they're afraid, and I said, but they're way more afraid of you than you are of that. A lot of times they do know a few words.
Right.
But I mean, what happens when, you know, a child is born, you're teaching them, you know, basic skills and stepping stones and phonics, ABCs, I mean, it's the same thing, it's just building blocks.
How do you measure someone's progress?
So a few years ago, that was a question that was brought up to us all the time. I mean, how do you measure someone's success? You know, just kind of say so, it doesn't really necessarily mean it happens. We don't have funding for the CASAS test, which is what they use for the state. It's thousands. So we implemented a Challenger series. So we bought a book series, and it correlates to the CASAS system. So as a student progresses through each of the books, they become more difficult. It has different vocabulary. It has, each chapter will have, you know, different pieces of it that obviously you can't progress forward until you've mastered those skills. And oftentimes our students will want to do a chapter or a whole book over again. You know, repetition, repetition, repetition is what we say to our tutors. And that's kind of what we instill into our children, and we do things over and over and over, and that's how you learn, and they do the same thing. So we do ask for that on a monthly. We ask for reports every month where they're at, so we calculate, and then we can see, you know, what the progression of, you know, they've averaged 5 chapters last year, or overall, you know, our students have performed.
That's how you kind of test them.
Yeah, because they're all over the place. Like, I mean, they don't all just come to the center because it's all one-on-one, so a lot of it we're faced with, you know, at the mercy of the tutor giving us the information.
And the materials come out of your funds. In other words, the books. Okay.
So we give, so now we, you know, now that we've had some extra funding, we give the students their own books. You know, before we used to just make copies. So if there's something nice to be said about having your own book, and you can write in it and have your own, you know, and then you have it to look back on, they can study from it rather than not, you know, having a copy. And so, you know, they like that, and I like that, I like giving them that.
Good.
All set.
All set, thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much, and excellent job you're doing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna, we have a couple things added. Milford Progress, I'm gonna recuse myself from Milford Progress and Law Department. I'm on the Milford Progress Board, so
That's
to take over for a few minutes.
I'm going to recuse from Milford Progress. I'm on the board.
Does anybody do anything on this?
No.
Oh, you do.
The Law Department, I'll come back.
Try to stump it.
All right.
Let's see, what do we got here?
Milford Progress is page 91.
91. And this is a grant item. Let's 65, yeah.
And historically, it's been 10,000. And if you're not aware, MPI is a completely volunteer organization. We're sort of an economic development entity on behalf of the city of Milford. Because we're completely volunteer, we have no overhead of any kind. We don't have any employees. Everything that we get from the city, we give back to the city. In years past, they have taken downtown redevelopment plan from Alan Plattis and helped to execute some of those things. I also happen to be the vice chair of the downtown redevelopment for the new sort of trans-oriented developments. And so that the study that BL did for us also had a number of recommendations that MPI hopes to execute, such as like downtown planters and sort of redoing the train trestles and things like that. So after getting through some legal niceties of the past year, sort of disentangling us from the city and from the chamber, because no one was really sure what our legal status was. Frankly, with the help of John Burcham, we were able to do that, and now we can get back to funding some good things. So MPI does essentially two different things. One, we'll take on some certain tasks ourselves, and so this planter idea and the train trestle will be one of those, where we'll take on that duty as well as spend the money in order to accomplish a specific goal. And the other thing we do is to provide grants to other things that we think are worthwhile, such as we have a request to sponsor the farmers market. There's going to be hosted by the Downtown Milford Business Association. We'll be taking a vote on that tomorrow. So we essentially do two different types of things. Either we sponsor worthwhile causes here in the city, or on the other hand, we actually carry out things that we think will help either beautify or help promote economic development in the city.
Grants anywhere else, just Milford grant, that is it, but no. Funds, income coming in.
The only income we have is from the city. What we hope to do is, once we get the Adopt-A-Spot underway, is that we can charge for that and sort of self-fund to a certain extent, but that's been sort of a slow-moving process.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
And please note the fact that Brian and Scott are members of MPI work against us at all.
It's all the more reason, you're right. Let's see, MPI's bad. You're up. 24.
Good evening.
Why is Brian out of this?
I unfortunately have worked Brian, continue to work Brian in the firm for free. So he's got to be feel he could be functional at the league.
Why would you work with him?
It wasn't my choice.
Oh, okay.
He was hired before I worked him.
Jonathan.
So,
yeah, what do we got?
I don't have a presentation other than say that my budget is identical to the budget for the last several years, other than the personal services, which reflect the contractual wage increases. I would say it's been the same budget that it's been for the 6 years that I've been here, but it hasn't, because it's actually gone down in terms of, we've made some reductions in our line items 4122 other legal fees, 4189 miscellaneous professional fees and services. I believe the last time we made a reduction was a couple of years ago. The one item that we continue to put in every year, which the mayor then takes out, is item 4990, which is furniture, fixtures, and equipment. It's $2,500 to one. That's just my effort to try to get Matt Woods a new desk.
I know we can get some milk crate.
If you do, can you just give Kathy the place, and I'm happy to pick those up.
Oh, man.
But, from an operational expense, it's
Where is your
City Hall.
It's in the City Hall?
Yeah, it's just the mayor's office, and the mayor, Steve Fournier, is there, and two staff, and then myself, Deborah Kelly.
It's right in that same?
Yeah, just the left.
Okay.
Left of the auditorium.
Can't believe
We
it.
spend probably, if I had a nickel every time somebody's walked in there and asked for the tax office or the zoning office,
Yeah.
you know, they're retired. They don't ask for the police department anymore. They used to be there. That was in the basement back in the day, well before Chief Miller's time.
He may be getting a Taj Mahal.
No, just operational efficiencies and hopefully a nice building that can service the community well.
Okay. I have one question. Why is the assistant city attorney making more money than my city attorney?
She's much smarter than me and she works longer. No, that's
But she
all.
works hard, huh?
She does,
Okay.
and that is certainly true, but
Yeah.
just for Mr. Moulton, I'm paid less because I am a part-time employee.
Right.
I work, my agreement is to work 24 hours a week. I would dare say sometimes it exceeds that, but
Right.
my salary is effectively a 2/3 salary from what the most recent full-time city attorney was, Marilyn Lipton. And when she retired, Max Case was hired and changed the format to the city attorney's office so that the city attorney was going to be a part-time position. The assistant city attorney position is full-time. The trial counsel position is what Matt Woods is, and he's been that for north of 25 years, and that's also part-time.
That's part-time?
Yeah, Matt works crazy hours now. He's there at 5 in the morning, leaves at 10. I value sleep more than that.
What's the risk manager do, John?
The risk manager,
Never asked you before, but.
yeah, so the risk manager coordinates all of our insurance policies. That's liability, auto, property. Oversees our workers' compensation program. Chairs our safety committee, works with the fire department, the police department, and is the concierge or the central clearinghouse for any workers' comp injuries. Now we are self-insured for workers' comp. So if an employee gets hurt in the job, they will file a 30C. Now we have a TPA, third-party administrator, that's PMA, that helps administrate claims, adjust the claims, but it's $1, out of the city pays for it. Helps and works with Peter in procuring our liability auto policy. Currently we have insurance with Kerma. I think we had a period of time where we were self-insured, not truly self-insured for our liability. It was a high deductible.
100,000.
SIR of, I think it was $500,000. But that, we've explored that several times each year. It really wasn't a good time for us with some large losses and where the market was. When we just re-upped with Peter, maybe if you get to the board, I think it was a 0% increase, a 3-year deal, 0-0 with a cap at third year, maybe the second, third year with a cap at 3%. So we did very well. We have a couple losses out there, which we're hoping to control. But in terms of our position in the marketplace insurance, we're well settled. We're rivaled in terms of other communities, in terms of our loss controls and our risk management.
That is not a legal position, though.
Risk manager? No, that was changed over 2 or 3 years ago. It was under finance, I believe, Peter. And given how closely we work together, it made more sense to bring her within our budget and literally within my building. But sadly, Kim Kell was our risk manager. She was risk manager for over a decade. Kim passed away. Geez, it seems like yesterday, but I think it's over 1.5 years ago. And we've not replaced her. Tony Weeks, my paralegal, has been acting risk manager. We had a hiring freeze in the city, and we just haven't gotten around to it. So Tony has picked up a tremendous amount of slack. I've tried to pick up some, and so it's still there, but there's not a full-time risk manager right now.
Does HR have that up, looking for a risk manager or no?
HR will, as soon as my boss gives me the green light.
More money.
The assistant city attorney trial, that's Matt Woods?
Yes.
And that's a part-time position?
Correct.
Okay.
It's the same 24-hour week. Matthew does all of our tax appeal work, zoning appeals, and the like.
Our outside legal, that's attorneys that would go.
Outside legal is frankly, given the size and the complexity of the work we do, there's frankly more legal work than we can manage on our own.
Yeah. Right.
So, for example, we have the microgrid project. I don't know if you've heard, we received a $3 million grant from the state of Connecticut to put a microgrid to service this building, its own little power station, if you will.
Oh.
For resiliency, the event of storms and the like.
Oh, yeah, right.
Any excess energy produced can be put back into the grid for credits. I can spell microgrid, but I can't tell you the energy components and the legal complexities of it, so I had to hire an energy lawyer expert in that field. So that's what other legal goes into, things of that nature.
Now, our zoning appeals, when we go to court, who handles that then?
Matthew.
That does, okay.
Matthew, and we have, there's some sensitive ones. I don't know if you've heard, Milford, there's been a few affordable housing applications.
Right.
And frankly, we've developed a reputation with Judge Berger, who handles exclusively the land use docket. I think the last land use appeal, affordable housing appeal, Matthew asked me for his own professional reputation if I could hire outside counsel, because he was having a difficult time defending what he thought to be difficult cases to defend. Because there's a difference in policy in terms of interpretation and application of that act.
It's tough to go up against Tom on this.
So we hired somebody who would appeal that for us?
Correct.
Okay. Who did we hire?
Melinda Powell's her name. She was at Rosa Calor, and they just merged. I can't think of the name.
Okay.
And the reason I hired her was because she had successfully won an appeal in Fairfield. And it was the first successful 830G appeal in the last 8 years.
Yeah, at least one. Wow.
As you know very well, you can win cases if you have facts to support it. And the property that was to be developed was sitting in a wetland. In Fairfield, so it was. But
no burden.
I figured, still see if she still had a hot hand. She didn't. We lost.
Oh well. New judge. I'm all set. Everybody else? We have something.
We have ethics.
Ethics. What is that?
That is
25.
It's 25.
below.
Yeah, 4132.
Oh, yeah. That's all legal. Secretarial.
This is again, this has remained the same for the past 6 years.
Have they been any hearings or anything with ethics? None.
None. They're meeting for the first time. I have a pretty ambitious board. They're going to meet and talk about possible training.
Right. Yeah.
To get together. I will make the same spiel I make every year. The $800 can cover probably a meeting or two, maybe a training in the event that a hearing is required, and the board has to hire counsel to do it. Because I can't, it's going to exceed the budget. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
You got it. I'm all set. Everybody else?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you all.
Done. We'll just sit.
Jen, I thought you were going to be fast. You said you'd be quick. You weren't.
Mr. Fitzpatrick, I won't tell Brian what you said.
I know.
Thank you.
All right,
Let's do, can we just wait for a second on the, just to get the animal control out of the way?
Sure.
It'll be quicker.
That's fine?
Yeah. You all right?
No? Anybody object?
No.
All right.
Okay, 59.
Animal control, 59.
Hi, I'm Scott Ellenson. I'm the Director of Animal Control, and I'm pretty much keeping the budget the same as it was, including the cuts from last year. not asking for anything.
Are all positions filled?
Yeah, we've still got the same people working there.
Right, but they're filled, somebody's in all position.
Yep.
Okay. What are we getting from Orange, do you know offhand?
75 a year.
How much, 75,000?
Do you guys go out and get wild animals if somebody has a problem with a raccoon or something?
Like in a household, no. We can give them advice, but for the most part, they would have to call a nuisance wildlife remover. But if it's like a public building, we will help, or a dangerous situation, we will.
I'm all set.
I'm all set.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Police Department, 4310. Welcome. Good evening, Chief.
Oh, I'm sorry, this is
Page
43. No,
Yes, I can.
what is it?
Ken.
Ken?
Nice to meet you. Welcome.
He was a big football star.
Yeah.
4'9", quarterback.
4'9".
That's usually how people remember him.
Not too young.
I don't remember. But you saw me newspaper articles.
You can't believe everything you read in the newspaper.
So, well, thank you. When you look at the budget, you'll notice it's, for the most part, very similar to what it was last year. I just direct your attention to some of the wage accounts, the regular overtime, dedicated training overtime, further down, halfway down the page, about further way down the page, vacation leave. Those increases were based upon what we used last year, what we historically used, along with the current wage increase by the signing of the union contract. So, my point is it's static from what it was last year. We requested what we spent last year plus the wage increase. But as you can see, in overtime, I can tell you right now that there will be a shortfall of about $320,000. We know that. Historically, we know that. Dedicated training, we'll either train less, which we're not going to do. We shouldn't do. There'll be a shortfall of approximately $58,000. Vacation relief, we know there'll be a shortfall of $79,000. And other than that, there are no new programs in the mayor's budget. I did request 3 dispatchers, and those 3 dispatchers, they're in my budget, but not in the mayor's budget. So, but I just direct your attention to those.
Yeah, that's what
We have, as you know, we combine dispatch. We need 8 dispatchers, civilian dispatchers to run the dispatch center. We used to have 6. We laid some off a while ago, and we're trying to. The plan was to rehire those back and to bring on the 4 additional dispatchers. I did put in for 3 this year, as I've done in the past. Those weren't funded. So we'll continue to be short in our dispatch center.
You have 8 now, right?
No, we combined dispatch center. So fire had 8, which is what you should have. And we should have 8, but we only have 4. So you'll see a total of 12. So the fire dispatchers are in our budget now because they're no longer fire dispatchers, they're public safety dispatchers. If you recall, we combined our dispatch center. We do police, fire, EMS, everything comes out of there now. The EOC's over at the PD. But we're still, we can't fully implement the program until we get enough civilian dispatchers because I have to put police officers in there to dispatch. Which, if you look at the difference in the rates of pay, it's considerable that we're training and paying a police officer to dispatch. Police officers can't dispatch for fire. They don't know fire dispatch, they don't know EMS. So it leaves us at a disadvantage because we can't let them do both. But under the current structure, any dispatcher hired now is a public safety dispatcher trained to do both. So that's what that is in there. We called ours communication agents and fire called theirs dispatchers.
Police officers dispatching, is that what we're doing?
No, we take them off the road, off of an area.
Okay.
Just for some clarification on that, because all the dispatchers, public safety dispatchers, they're all shown in your department. I don't believe fire has any.
They don't.
They
All
don't,
in ours
so-
now, all in our budget.
So there's, I think, eight total dispatchers, or there?
Those are 8 dispatchers, those are all from fire. Those are the dispatchers we took from fire, 8 dispatchers. So
Okay.
there's 8 on the fire side, 8 on the PD side. You have 2 dispatchers doing PD dispatch at all times, you have 2 dispatchers doing fire dispatch at all times. And to man 3 shifts plus days off, it requires 8 dispatchers.
Okay, but I'm looking, regardless of fire, police, distinguishing between those two departments, there's 8 employees who are classified as dispatchers, or
Yes.
are there more? And then-
No, there's 12. The communication agents, that's just the label that we gave our dispatchers at the PD.
Oh,
Fire brothers over there, call them
civilian.
dispatchers. They're all the same thing. We should
Okay.
really just change it, and I will have that changed to public
All
safety.
right, that's what I'm getting at.
dispatchers.
So the communication agent civilian are the police dispatchers?
Right.
Okay.
And now, again, they're all public safety dispatchers. So I'll have that changed so to make it a little less.
Okay, that was my confusion. Thank you.
Now, these communication agents cannot do the fire, though?
Yes, they can.
Oh, they
Because
can?
they're civilians. So we had 8 civilian
Oh,
dispatchers
okay.
on the fire side, we brought them over.
Right.
And we had 4 on the PD side. And so now we've cross-trained everyone so they can do both jobs.
Okay.
The issue is when we bring a police officer in there, the police officer can't work over on the
Right.
fire or EMS dispatch. Other than that, the budget is the same, roughly the same. And actually, I think the mayor had approved all of our requests. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I think one that he did, we knocked down, and specifically the cars.
Yeah,
I
right.
requested 285,000, that would give us 9 cars. The mayor approved, or recommends 190, which would give us 6 cars. When I became chief, we were getting 13 cars a year, and we had 7 less police officers.
Is it every year that we're getting 7 to 9? Is it?
Right, we used to get about 13 every year. Now we're getting, well, we'll get approximately 6. The goal is to try to get, we'd like to get 12, but we'll buy with what we have. And we also have an account that we can, last year the budget was cut significantly, but we rent cars, cruisers at these construction jobs that are private duty. And one of the things, we started a program to be able to supplement the budget, and that was that when we have these old cars that we would normally trade in, we leave the bar lights on and we let utility companies hire those. Now you'll see those, just like in any town, you're going to see police cars at the side of a construction site. The difference with our department, and I can't speak for all departments, but with our department, it was we charged the utility company for the use of that car. And that money goes into a fund that helps pay for cars. And so that's what we'll do. We'll look at, we won't be able to do it this year because we did it last year. That's how we bought the majority of our cars last year. But that helps supplement the budget and keeps that number.
How many cars do we have altogether, roughly? 30 something?
Wow.
More?
There were 30 cruisers, but there are I think there's 8 admin cars or 7 admin cars. I'm sorry, I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Yeah, right, but just check.
They're significant. There's a number of, all the detectives have cars. There's probably 18 of those cars. There's about a dozen specialty vehicles. There's 4 motorcycles. There's some soft cars, we call them, that are non-discrete that they use for
drug stuff.
Through drug surveillance, things like that.
Do we used to take over, it's not terrible, I can't pull the word. When you take a car from a drug dealer or whatever, what do you call that?
Confiscation.
Yeah, well, it was
Confiscation.
Right.
Do we do that
those.
anymore?
We do, but it's not very often because most of the cars have they have a note left on them, and we'd have to pay that off to get the car, and often it's not worth it. And there's a process.
Pay the note.
Yeah, unfortunately, it
Not
doesn't work that way. So, yeah, the cars don't, it's seldom
Yeah.
that we get a car that
Oh, I
we
got you.
seize. But you're right, we still allow it in the past. Right.
Okay, the dispatchers, those 8 came from the fire department?
Yes.
Right, and then the other 4 you had, right?
Yes.
Okay, so they're, okay. Okay.
1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 23 24 25 26 27 28 29 30 31 32 33 34 35 36 37 38 39 40 41 42 43 44 45 46 47 48 49 50 51 52 53 54 55 56 57 58 59 60 61 62 63 64 65 66 67 68 69 70 71 72 73 74 75 76 77 78 79 80 81 82 83 84 85 86 87 88 89 90 91 92 93 94 95 96 97 98 99 100 101 102 103 104 105 106 107 108 109 110 111 112 113 114 115 116 117 118 119 120 121 122 123 124 125 126 127 128 129 130 131 132 133 134 135 136 137 138 139 140 141 142 143 144 145 146 147 148 149 150 151 152 153 154 155 156 157 158 159 160 161 162
Do we have 4 SROs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right now.
Okay, I thought it was 3.
The two high schools, East Shore and West Shore.
Right, and well, they split the middle schools and the academy. So the 2 SROs serve 3 schools. Those SROs, half of their salary and benefits is paid by Board of Ed. Right. Board of Ed is asked every year for additional SROs. But that's how we use our program. It's a good program, very good program.
Is that adequate? You know, your opinion.
I think there should be one in all 3 of those schools. And you share in the middle schools. I know the middle schools, and the superintendent would tell you that, you know, some days I don't have an SRO. And if I only have an SRO 2 days one week and 3 days another, or only half a day, some days, I'm sure they'd like, that's security. And especially in today's climate, I would like to see every school, I think 1 more would suffice. I think they prefer more.
They're asking for 1 this year.
They're asking for 1?
Yeah, they're asking for 1.
Right.
The Board of Ed keeps putting it in there.
Right.
Yeah.
But unless we put it in ours, it's
Right.
not going to happen. Right.
Was that an aberration, do you think, at Parkland with the offices?
In terms of?
Oh,
absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it had
I was shocked. I'd still like to know the finer details of that, the additional officers. I'm shocked by it. And, nobody was more shocked than
you would be, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I have no explanation. I couldn't explain that. It doesn't make any sense.
That didn't make sense, no.
Have you seen the plans? I think a couple of meetings ago, or the last meeting, we approved some bonding to redo a lot of the vestibules in the schools, so that someone would come in, like if I want, walk into a school, I wouldn't be walking right into the school.
Right.
Have you seen those plans?
Our committee has,
Oh, yeah.
and so we've been involved in that, and I think that that's an excellent place to put your money, because those are needed, and that's important. And a lot can be done just through, without creating bunkers at schools, just through some re-engineering and some additional security measures. I think that we can harden our schools and still make our schools inviting.
Right.
So I think that was a very good.
Okay, so you guys have seen?
Yes, we have. We're involved in the school safety plan. We work closely with the Board of Ed. We have a very strong relationship with them, and we have a school safety committee that we have several of our people sit on. And Jeff Nielsen, who used to work with us, works over there, so really comfortable with what they're doing over there, and we give them a lot of support, and they've been fantastic.
So how would the SRO, these SROs, deal with the new vestibule? Would they be the ones making the decision as to who comes through?
No. Okay. The high schools are patrolled by security guards. The police officers aren't security guards. They're law enforcement officers, and you really don't want them as a security guard at an entry point. I mean, they're usually visible.
Right.
The elementary schools have greeters that aren't security guards, but they're there to make sure that nobody goes into the school that shouldn't be in the school. And we don't, unless there's a threat, or excuse me, let me rephrase that, unless there's a reason for us to be at the school, and sometimes that reason is that the parents just need to be reassured after an event somewhere in the country, that's when we put police officers at the schools. I mean, you've seen elementary schools where we may have police officers in front. It's not that necessarily there was a threat to that school. We just want kids and parents who are dropping kids off to feel we're there. And and from what you saw on TV, we understand how difficult that is for parents, and so we want to reassure them. So that's why we're there.
But every school has somebody in that school.
My understanding is every school has at least someone.
Someone, a greeter,
right,
a security guard, someone that's going to determine who comes in.
That's my understanding. I don't know if anything has changed, but my understanding is that elementary schools had greeters and there were security guards in the high schools.
Right. Okay.
And I think there's a number of security guards at the high schools.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
When I was at school,
This is about that. I
didn't have any of this. Okay, but there is somebody in every school.
That's my understanding.
And they'll be able to look in the vestibule and, I guess you'll have an intercom or something. You can ask that person what their business is and what they want, why they want to enter the school.
That's my understanding. The schools are responsible for their own security.
Right.
If that would probably be a question just to verify that you should have with the Board of Ed, but that is my understanding.
Okay.
Have you seen, there's a film that they can put over windows that makes the window ballistic proof. I don't know how proof that makes that window. None of our schools really have on first floor like on Orange Avenue or any of them. Those windows are not, I don't want to call it, is it bulletproof with that film they can put over the window?
It makes it, we actually have them on the police department. It makes them almost like a tempered glass where the glass is going to shatter and it hardens the glass.
Right.
A lot of times I don't talk publicly about some of those things that are in the schools.
Very good point. Very good point. Okay. Oh, personal protective equipment. What was that you were looking for there?
That, after 9/11, the federal government paid for personal protection equipment, masks and suits, chemical suits, in the unlikely event of a chemical attack. Those have an expiration date, so those have all expired, and so you see it in the budget every year. But it's the first thing I take out when I sit down with the mayor when we have to cut, because we're dealing with probabilities, not possibilities. But
right, yeah. Okay.
The body-worn camera storage, it's just the storage of the data?
The storage, yeah, that's the storage of the data. The program, now we've had cameras for 7 years, one of the first agencies to get cameras. We used to rotate the cameras and it worked well. And then the state came down and offered this grant money, but the issue with the grant money is they pay for the cameras, which have a shelf life of about 5 years, and they pay for 1 year of storage. The storage is about $113,000 a year for public storage. And the way the grant's written is everybody has to have a camera, everybody has to have their own storage. As a result, you have to have your own storage account. My concern, I actually my concern when we wrote the policy was that municipalities were going to continue to fund at an appropriate level to fund the storage. And that's what we see here. That's $113,000. And if I recall, we had 75? 96. That's $113,000, and I think municipalities are going to have trouble meeting. Those are fixed costs. Our plan, and I discussed this with the mayor, our plan is that we'll focus on using alternative sources, whether it be seized asset funds or private duty funds, or transferring, looking for a surplus in one account and transferring into another. But I think you're going to start to see that more and more, where municipalities are going to have trouble paying those costs, and that was a big criticism about the program. But it never was a good program.
Is that permanent storage, or is it rollover every?
Well, some of that stuff is permanent. Most of it rolls over. There's a I think the records of retention is 30 days. We're actually storing 90, but I think the records of retention says 30 for just your average video. The policy says 90. Some of the stuff has to be held for the life of the case, and then there's other things that we want to hold. For instance, if an officer is involved in use of force, we're going to hold that.
Yeah.
And it's been really helpful for us in investigating ourselves, or reviewing our own behavior.
Every policeman has a camera?
Yes.
Detectives too?
Everyone.
Everyone, okay.
How many vacancies do you have right now?
I have one.
One vacancy?
Wow, that's good.
What position, officer?
Police officer, yes.
Okay,
I'm all set.
Are you close to catching the?
We're working on it. We're working hard. We have a strategy, which I won't highlight, but we are working very hard and have a lot of resources out there. It's not just Milford, it's surrounding towns as well, as you probably know. I will say this, and I certainly say this publicly. The behavior of this person is that to find people that aren't home. And there's been a few times where somebody has come home or was home and this person leaves right away. So I tell you that it doesn't appear in this case that he certainly doesn't want to go home where anybody is. I think he is. I don't know that. Well, I do know that.
What was the question? I didn't hear you, Lauren.
So you close to catching the guy that's throwing the rocks through the windows?
Oh, through the windows, okay.
Okay, so, watch out, it's not your next door kid, right?
Thank you both for coming.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it, nice meeting you.
See, we weren't as bad as he told you.
What's the story before you go, of the new place?
I knew that was coming.
I knew, right? You're almost out the door.
I was going to say it again.
I just saw the...
It's, you know, just a little bit about the building.
Yeah.
Since the late 19, when I moved into the building in 1981, it was already too small. They were already at Public Works building, taking vestibules and making closets for storage, and that was before we had MIS. We didn't have computers. It wasn't a thing back then. We didn't have computer forensics back then. We didn't have labs. We didn't have juvenile justice. We didn't have to separate juveniles by sight and sound for processing and detention, and now we have 16 and 17-year-old juveniles. We didn't have a combined dispatch center, which we really still don't. We're too small. We did that in anticipation of building this building. The EOC is over there. All these new functions that have developed since the last needs assessment in the late 1980s. In the late 1980s, the consultant that the city hired came in and said that this police department, not by asking people what they need, by doing their analysis and plugging this into a template and saying, you need 19,000 square feet for your operation. It's a 44,000 square foot building. And you add 20 to that, you're at 65. That's about where we are right now. Now, that's in addition to all the other functions and complexities that I just mentioned, and there's more. And that creates a locker room where there actually is enough lockers for people. And that creates, it actually puts a lot of things back that we already had, and it has some new advantages as well that we'd be really excited to explain to people. And so when it looks like it's a, you know, it's this big building, it's really, in fact, the consultant that came in 2008, the city paid for, did a needs assessment, which I thought some of the spaces were too small, but he didn't base it on what Keith Mello wanted, he based it upon his analysis, and said we would look at that later. We actually are coming in square footage in the main building, not the garage building, 3,000 square feet less than what they recommended, and I felt that there were some things that needed to grow in that. So it's not, you know, Taj Mahal, I've heard, you know, heard that. That's not what it is. Construction prices are construction prices. You know, it is what it is. It's not like, you know, the trades are the trades. And what that's going to be, I don't know. But we have not only issues of space at the PD, we have functions that we can't house, and we have deficiencies in the building. If I showed you the private tour of that building and you saw that, we either need to put an addition on that building for 19,000 plus square feet, which is really where you're at now, and then correct many of the deficiencies. This new space is going to have a workflow, I think, that is going to be, you know, important for a modern-day police department, and it's the last building that Milford should ever have to build. My only hope is that they build it, that they don't cut back too much like they tend to do, and I say they, that municipalities tend to do to save money, and then you move in and it's too small. And then, you know, 5 years later, 7 years later, you're putting an addition on it.
Who will be doing the approval of this? Police commission?
There's a building committee.
From the police commission?
No,
it's town. Just a town.
Town building committee. It's been in the capital improvement plan since the 80s.
That's a lot.
I've been trying to get this done for, you know, like a dozen years now.
Did we get the land already or no?
Yeah, the land's been bought.
We're all set.
It's a great location.
Yeah.
It's actually, when Mayor Riccitelli was here, it was a location that we looked for. We tried to get that from Barris, but they didn't want to sell it.
He was stubborn.
It's just a prime location. I think it's a really good opportunity for the city. There's really no place.
Where is it?
I'm sorry, it's across from, is that Planet Fitness there?
Next to Gloria's.
Curtis Plaza, is that Planet Fitness? Is that
Yeah, it is Planet.
Yeah.
Planet Fitness across from there, all that vacant property.
Car wash.
There's going to be some development going in there. That end of the post road has always been kind of tired, and so it'd be nice to see some development in there.
It's a wasteland right now.
Yeah, it really is. So they're working on the plans right now. I don't know the exact square footage, so I'm just giving you an estimation.
Yeah.
But it will solve a lot of the problems that we have, and you know, I'm excited about it. But you know, that's up to other people to make that decision.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you do with the old?
To sell the property, they had the property appraised. I think it was appraised.
I forgot. Yeah.
Was it $3 million? I think it was $3 million. John Burcham will remember.
Yeah.
I mean, it is on the post road. So.
Yeah.
But
we can put cars there.
It may.
Would that allow us to sell the property that you're currently?
Yes, that property is less than 3 acres.
Right, but we
2.1
could sell
acre.
that.
You could sell it, it's been appraised, I think at 2.5, 3 million is what it was appraised at. Because they had it appraised before they bought the other land.
But before we sell, remember, Public Works is back there too, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
Don't let Chris get in there.
well, I mean,
You're
you're not gonna get top dollar for
You'd
that
have to
building.
convert that building, someone would have to renovate the building.
You can't, you'd have to tear it down, that's the problem. The hallways are about this wide. It's not, it has issues with handicap accessibility. There are, you know, without talking publicly, there are, if you walk into, there's problems in that building that need to be significant, require significant repair. One of the reasons that we looked at, well, if we put an addition on, we could put the square footage, we wouldn't correct the problem deficiencies in the main building, but we couldn't because code would require that we tear it down and start from scratch. Because,
Thanks for the update.
You're welcome.
Sorry.
All right. There we go.
Take slowly.
Thanks again.
Take care, thanks.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
Okay.
All right?
All right, well, Thursday, recess until Thursday, March 1st.
So moved.
Second
Stepping around.
recess.
Are you going on vacation?
Thursday.
No, my wife's in Florida right now.
Aren't you lucky?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you could cook all your own meals.
Good night, everybody. See you later.
Stuff on
Yeah, right.
steak stuff. She made a bunch of stuff.
I bet you did.
Won't let me.